So, if I'm a flat earther, how can I support Elon Musk? Which is just really bizarre. For one thing, I'm not a flat earther or a round earther or a NASA or anything. I'm a researcher and I like researching different ideas on the same concept. On what do we live in? What is it? And so I look at different, like I've explored the cave theory, I've explored the flat earth theory, but what I think is kind of neat, and I don't say any of them are right or any of them are wrong because there's no way for me to know. And the only way I know what it is by my ancestors. What did they believe? They mostly believed the earth was flat most of the time, and only very short period of time that we had this round cosmology. And then we hear about it from NASA, and NASA says on all of their pictures that this is computer generated. They don't have any pictures. And if you just look at the different years that they say that they photographed the Earth, it's quite funny because it seems like the landmass grows and shrinks, grows and shrinks. And if you go by what is the one expert in there talking about the earth being the shape of a pear? Okay, so if you want to believe that, that's okay. I don't really care. Because that's the whole point. You have the right to think. Critical thinking allows you to explore all different options. Because without critical thinking, you can't think of anything. You're not going to be able to get yourself out of anything if you cannot actually think of even the things that don't work as being a possibility, because then you don't really have a good argument with anybody, do you? You just speak in your mind and you're speaking your opinion and it doesn't mean anything, but it's really somebody that explores all of these different options, at least in my crazy mind that I think this way anyways. But I look at the map, like the one video I guess I did about 5 years ago, talking about the moon possibly being a reflection from the sun, from the earth, all of the different landmass. And then people have made maps over this landmass. There's this one guy that did a computer generate. This is years ago he did this, like 5 years ago, something like that. He did a computer generated of the moon to see where he could put in our Earth. And he was able to put our Earth in one of the little dugouts in the moon. And now because it slipped my mind, Crater Earth, that's what he called it. He called it Crater Earth, right? And then if you go by that premise that really is a reflection that we're seeing from the sun, that shows like we live in a dome that has another dome after. So there's like two. And then they did these maps correlating, showing where all of these other planets, like Mars is in another crater of the Earth. Now, I'm not saying that we are the moon, but what about if we truly are water? Because like the blue up there, right? Like just think about it, right? I mean, it's just pulling out and throwing out crazy ideas. And we do have a dome, but if you look into some of the research, that they say that even though we have a dome, there is a couple of exits and entrances, and different seasons they can get through. Like the one that is through South America has a certain time period that they're able to actually go through the dome, through the ice wall, to the other ice wall, and then again to the other one, opening up to what you would call the planetary systems. Okay, so Mars, Venus, whatever it is, I think the moon is a reflection. I don't think that we've ever landed on it. But have we went other places? I think we went out of the dome. I personally think that man has traveled. There has many records, there's many books of journals of people that said even in this 15th, 17th, 19th century that said that they actually did go to these places, and that's where a lot of these stories, and were they able to name them and showing that different people, different races came from different islands, turtle islands, planets, whatever you want to call it, but in a sea, a flat sea that goes on forever. Okay, so Because the Bible does talk about waters above and waters below. And then we get all of the other ancient stories and stuff. To me, this one works, and this works still with the idea of all of the measurements that the flat earther is showing that it's impossible and that NASA is a big fat liar, all the different research that I did on that. And that most of it was filmed in a Hollywood basement, kind of stuff. To the fact that could they still be going places? Could Elon Musk really still be going to places? Do they have no way out? Is that what his money is being put in? Is that what NASA's money is? Because if they know that this Earth has a cyclical destruction time, which I talked about from mud floods and from the plasma apocalypse and just our history showing that we've had multiple resets, multiple destructions of our time. Maybe they know that this is going to happen and this is what they're doing, literally, moving out people to, and we don't even know where we're getting all of, when we're seeing things on TV and they're showing us themselves, they may not even be in our existence, in our realm. And maybe there is places around the earth, like I've read on many fictional books, like Stargate, right? Where there is portals from one of these realms to another. It's just a different way of thinking about it, to think that maybe not everything that they're saying is a total lie and a fabrication. Maybe he really is working on these rockets to get people out of space, and they really are going to go to Mars and inhabit Mars. Yeah. So maybe all of that is true, and maybe we really do live on a flat plane of existence on an island in a sea of other islands that we call planets, and the whole NASA spinning vortex, as the Bible says, the Earth does not move, and it is unmovable. And just because they don't look like you doesn't mean they're a demon. This is where you have to separate superstitions from the possibility that there are other environments where people have their genes, their bodies have grown into something a little different than yours. And that's really what we are as races. And I think that's where we get races. It's these different isolated areas where there was only this race, only that race, or as I talked about last time, maybe giants, maybe pygmies, maybe 4-inch creatures, and maybe at one time, a lot of those different planetary islands, and it was open, and we had a lot of these in the past, and you can see it through the bones and through what we've been able to find. So go find that video that I talked about that. And I think I've talked way too long about this subject, about how the possibility can be both ways. And maybe there still is more for you to think about and for you to explore. And don't ever hold on to one and say, that's what I got, because that stops you from still having a critical mind and looking at the next and readjusting your thought. Now, I'm not telling you how to think. I'm just telling you to think.